Hey everyone, hey Wellness Crew, and welcome to today's reading of Fragments of Light, Insights, Breakthroughs, and Epiphanies. The Deeper Reaches of Contemplation, The Art of Contemplation, Part 6. It takes time for truth to emerge out of the practice of contemplation, and time to really come down into the physical body. When it does come, it comes as an epiphany, which can happen in different ways for different people. It can come through tears, through an intense rush of truth, or it can come through a sort of deep explosion of joy or laughter. It is something that ripples through your body. It can come even through an illness, but the illness has a different quality to it, serving as a breakthrough that leaves you in a higher state as your body goes through a process of shedding a difficult memory pattern. It is actually being burnt from your DNA by the awareness that comes from contemplation. There are 3 stages of breakthrough, 3 layers which can help us in understanding and coming to grips with our shadow patterns and our challenges in life. Allow is the first stage, accept is the second, and embrace is the third, where the deep core work is done in the cells of the body. Knowing which stage we are in can help to give us a sense of where we are in our emotional terrain, as well as where we are heading, and each stage helps us to surrender more deeply into the process. The first technique of the art of contemplation is pausing, and it relates to the mind because it gives the mind space, which leads to insight. Pivoting, the second technique, gives space to the emotions so that there can be an emotional breakthrough. Thirdly, the technique of merging leads to an epiphany, which is a cellular explosion, a transmutation, and is of the physical body. Merging is a beautiful experience, and it is where contemplation gives way to absorption, a higher state. Absorption is more of a mystical state, in which our body starts to secrete hormones through the pineal and pituitary glands, allowing us to access deeper states of wisdom that are ongoing. We enter into these states at the higher reaches of contemplation. They do not take us out of the body, but take place deep within our body and our life. Thank you so much for the like. I appreciate that. They can happen rhythmically in an infinite unfolding and merging as we merge deeper and deeper into the field, into the different dimensions beyond time and space. The opening that contemplation leads to is endless and infinite. It is important to understand that there is no end to it because it is a constant, explosive journey of awakening through layers upon layers, over plateaus, hills, and mountains, and which continues to open us from the inside out, like the petals of a flower. After a while, contemplation becomes more than a habit, more than a technique, as it becomes deeply embedded in our nature and a part of who we are. It becomes mysterious in the sense that we are no longer doing the technique, But the technique is almost, in a way, doing us. This is when the heart begins to really open up. We want to love and serve all, and not cause harm to anything. One of the qualities that comes from merging is ahimsa, an ancient Indian principle of harmlessness. We give off an emanation of harmlessness because there is so much truth emerging through our being, and that one impulse of doing no harm overrides all others. This purity of heart sees its own essence in every creature, every person, every being, and everything, even in the shadow states. And ahimsa burgeons in us. We start to see light even in the shadow states, and even within evil and corruption too. We begin to lead the game of evolution and empowerment, and we become blissful as we enter into a wider field where we see everything, even in its dark phases and its challenges, as conspiring to move towards the light. Humor is the other thing that comes with this stage, and it comes from stepping out of the drama and realizing that it is all just a game. It does not take away one iota from our empathy with those who are suffering, and in fact, it surrounds and contains the suffering. Humor is a background awareness that doesn't have to be expressed. It just allows us to take life lightly, even when it is intense. It means we can surrender and let go into ever deeper levels and layers, and it is wonderful divinity. Oh, I'm sorry. And it is wonderful because, in a way, the humor is a crystallization of divinity. You have moments when you think you understand something, but you don't. All your knowing is vaporized by the void, by the great mystery. And in that way, the great teacher can always surprise you. There's a nice story about Jesus after he resurrected. He comes back after that intense experience and appears to the disciples for the first time. And the first thing he says is, "Have you got anything to eat?" It is a lovely moment, one of those that transcend understanding, that give you an insight into truth and the wonder of truth, and how it is hidden in unexpected places. Merging gives us openness in our being, so that the unexpected can appear at any point, in any way. This brings us back to pausing, as every pause that we take is an invitation, a possibility for greater merging. The pauses can be the tiniest moments, and the merging can be the tiniest things. Thank you so much for the like. I appreciate that. As I was communing with a beautiful sunrise one morning, I turned around and saw a beautiful little wild lily. It had a beautiful shape with a stamen inside it which looked quite phallic. It was looking towards the sun, and I became entranced by it, and how it had shaped itself and grown there. I stared at it for what seemed like hours, contemplating it as I and it basked in the sunrise. And I realized that it was me and I was it, that I was a representation of it, and I was there in another form as the flower. Contemplation can take us to the most unexpected places, where something mysterious opens up and we emerge deeper and deeper with nature, with life, and the events in our life. The art of contemplation is the greatest teaching. If you keep exploring it, it can become the central and most important thing in your life. I hope it does. Train of light. Running is a beautiful way to entertain the contemplative state, just like walking or anything that has a rhythmic quality. One day I was running down an old abandoned railway track, which had several paths joining into it at different points along the track. It struck me that it was almost symbolic of the contemplative path, where you have a train of thought moving through you with different tributaries joining the main flow of thought at different moments. And when there is a break in the trees, you see the sunlight, and suddenly an insight drops in. While I was running, I was recalling a book I had been reading about St. Thomas Aquinas' description of Christ's aura, his body of glory, the raiment of light, and the energy signatures that he emitted. It seems that St. Thomas went into a very deep contemplation for most of his life over the subject of the aura of the Master. What a great thing to contemplate. St. Thomas said that for the 40 days prior to the resurrection, Christ's aura was expanding and expanding, and it was preparing him for the event of his crucifixion and resurrection, and what was going to be a huge initiation. St. Thomas also said that Christ was able to expand and conceal the light from certain people at certain times so that it would not be too overpowering. So when Christ was on Mount Tabor in his full glory, and he fully realized the resplendent light as the intelligence of God manifesting through his aura, his disciples fell on their faces. I thought that Christ being able to conceal his light was a really powerful insight, and it powered and turbocharged my contemplation while I was running. It opened up the almost cellular memories of the possibility of those Siddhic states for all of us to shine in. Yogananda, who was an Indian Hindu monk, talks of a time when he ran to meet his master who had been away and was returning on the train. As Yogananda got to the station, he saw the train coming. Thank you so much, I appreciate that. He saw the train coming and shouted to one of the other disciples, "The train is full of light. The whole train is filled with the light of the Master." And as I was running, I thought of that train of light, the train of higher truth that I was running through. 2 cups. Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say. 2 cups. The drinking of tea can be a contemplative practice when it is done with mindfulness and awareness, and it can be wonderful for your inner cultivation. One of the disciplines I am learning is to take tea with me when I go out so I can share it with somebody else. That's actually a really good idea. Doesn't necessarily have to be tea, but taking something extra with you when you go out so you can share it with someone. That's actually really sweet. I like that idea. I love to drink fine Chinese tea out of beautiful cups. So if I'm heading out for a walk or to run errands, I like to take a beautifully prepared tea in a thermos with 2 cups. Because when you can share your practice of tea drinking with others, it becomes a metaphor for life, for openness, and for sharing your heart, your gifts, and your authenticity. Whatever is coming through you, can be shared with others, even personal or painful feelings. So whenever you go out, always take 2 cups, not just one. Because at any point, life may bring you a potential new friend. Something unexpected could come to you, a person, a creature, or a change of plan as you are moving on your trajectory for the day. You may find yourself in a gap or stopped in your tracks by something or someone. And that is an opportunity, a pause, an in-breath, and the potential for a cup of tea with someone. So when there is an opportunity, say hello. Take out the second cup, invite them to share your tea, and pour the tea for 2. What is this new unexpected experience, and what might it bring? What gifts might come with it? Take time to explore it and savor it. Be gentle and open. I hope you are understanding this metaphor. There are many ways in which life will try to engage us. If we are learning the art of contemplation, then we are also learning how to pause and listen to life. That is how we let life in. And that is how life then starts to do its magic, when we are open to it. But we have to have enough of a sense of core stability to be open to responding to the unexpected and to allow life to choreograph our destiny rather than being the person setting out to achieve X and Y every day and doing all the hard work. This might be a strategy for success in the outer world, but it isn't a strategy for success in your inner life. Your inner life has to be open to the ebbs and flows of fate, of Dharma. So as life comes to you and offers you something, you need to give that something your time, even if only a little bit of your time. Do you recall the people who wait on the street with clipboards, who want to talk to you and sign you up to something, but you are always in a rush to get somewhere and want to get past them and avoid looking them in the eye? I know I do. You might even move to the other side of the street so that you don't have to talk to them. But what you could do is look them in the eye and offer a moment of recognition and tell them thanks, but I really can't talk to you today. One day I might, but I'm not able to now. Sorry. I think we've all experienced that, let's be honest. Like, yeah, no. Please don't bother me today. But it's true, we could just offer them some recognition, and be like, yeah, thanks, can't talk to you today, sorry, bye. Offer some kindness. Because it must be a little bit grueling to have that experience of having everybody just reject you all the time. That must be an incredibly negative experience. In this way, you acknowledge them, validate them, and in that moment, you have opened to life instead of closing to it. But you have also kept to it what is correct for you. One day you may slide into a pause and find that you have a spare couple of minutes just to give them the gift of someone listening. You are not necessarily there for what they want to tell you, and most likely you are not interested in what they are offering. But give them the 2 minutes anyway. It can be a magical thing. So take 2 cups wherever you go, and then you create an opening in your aura that will open more and more. And life will keep bringing you friends, all kinds of new friends. And those friends will open up connections and fractal lines to all kinds of possibilities and miracles that you would otherwise have been missing. Practice this art of tea, and whenever you go out, remember to always take a second cup. Fragments of Light, Chapter 4. A New Future. As this current age ends and we prepare the ground for the new epoch and the generations to come, we might wonder what the future holds for us as a species. The new paradigm is on the horizon, and what is coming is nothing less than a beautifully upgraded version of humanity with a vastly heightened sensitivity and awareness, in a magical and radically new way of being. I do not know how to say this phrase, so however I say it, we're going to just pretend that is how exactly it is pronounced. Treta Yuga. The next epoch, known as Treta Yuga, is part of an ancient model of the evolution of Gaia and of humanity, which originates from ancient Indian religious texts called the Vedas. It works through 4 great epochs or cycles, known as yugas, which have been mathematically calculated and revised in many ways. Essentially, we begin in perfection, which we then fall from in a great art, letting go gradually and forgetting more and more until we are at the bottom, at the base, where we have fallen completely into the material world and are completely separate from our spiritual origins. And although heaven and earth are a long way apart, we then begin to ascend again. The current rises, remembering itself as it climbs to the top. When we have a gradual synthesizing of the material and the spiritual, the above and below. The happy ending is that we arrive back where we began, but we are richer through the journey. It is the arc of eons, and it is a wonderful riddle. The model that I have found most useful is the one by Sri Yukswar, a great sage. He postulated that the nadir, the base, where we sank to the deepest part, known as the Kali Yuga, was around 500 AD, which is the Dark Ages. And after that point, we began to move up again, and have been ascending ever since. The process is really interesting when you get into the nitty-gritty, because in each yuga are sub-yugas of the whole map, almost like a hologram. And then each one of them again is a sub-yuga. You can really see the patterns within the patterns. It used to be that we were aware of the magic of life, the magical connection between all things, where matter and spirit were combined. We were a bit of both, and so we were able to manipulate matter in different ways, and were more merged with the field of consciousness. Slowly, as we came down on the arc, we forgot the magic and lost track of it, until we sank into the material world and forgot our divine origins entirely. The descent was about forgetting, about coming from a magical world and then forgetting that world, and those magical practices becoming solidified or hardened. That is what happened in many great religious practices, which were initially of the magic reality, but became increasingly ritualized until they were empty, because we had forgotten the magical world. We are now beginning the ascent in something called the descending Dwapara Yuga, as opposed to its descending stage. Coming up from the base is about the ascent back to the magical through the material. We have to rise up through mastering the material realm, which is where science comes in and a different pattern of ascension. In the Dwapara Yuga, where we are now, we are remembering and understanding the material plane more and more. The next stage is the Treta Yuga, which will come in a couple of thousand years from now and will last for many thousands of years. I was trying to envisage that future, where we will remember more of ourselves, when I was out running one day. I happened to be on a golf course at the time, and it got me thinking back to when I was younger and quite a good golfer. Those outside it may find golf hard to appreciate, but it is a really contemplative sport because it is just you alone. Your swing, your rhythm, the ball, and the hole. That's it. It is all down to you, and there is a purity to that. The rhythm of your swing is an unconscious thing, and when you are in harmony, it is the sweetest feeling when you connect with the ball. To be a master of any sport, you have to practice it over and over again until that sweet spot has become ingrained in you. But in the Treta Yuga, I saw that every shot you took would be in the sweet spot because it would be in harmony with the Tao. Imagine you got a hole-in-one every time. It would be regarded as a miracle, with every shot taken in harmony, with all that is. And the game would be no longer a game. You could never lose. It would be like those wonderful films where great martial artists end up conspiring together because they are so equal in their mastery that neither can win. You could also apply this to running, which is another thing that I love to do. Imagine you are in an immortal body. You would be able to run for weeks without stopping or tiring because your energy field would be connecting to the quantum realm and drawing its sustenance from it. The joy of the run itself would nourish you. There would be an endless pulsing rhythm and flow, and you would be able to run and be in aesthetic bliss forever. Think about a football team in the consciousness together, and the perfection of the passing, the movement, the rhythm, the flow, the positioning of each player, in perfect synchronization with the whole. They would be unbeatable and boring to play against because every time you tried to find a weak spot, the team would automatically shift into another unbeatable sequence. You might think of swimming. In the Treta Yuga, you would be able to hold your breath underwater indefinitely, just drawing breath from your inner core, from the deep pulse coming from inside you. You could swim with the whales and dolphins and glide down to great depths with your organs able to adjust to the immense pressure. I bet there's a lot of people that wish they could do that. In the Treta Yuga, if you sat down to play the piano and thought of someone you love, you would start to play the music of their soul. It would emerge through the consciousness field and out through your hands because of your great love. I imagine many musicians will have experienced that. In the Treta Yuga, you would not have to become a musician or even practice, because in the consciousness field, mastery would be interchangeable. You could sit down never having played the piano, and through your love and the soul of the one you love coming through your hands, you would make the greatest music. With architecture, the architect would go out into the landscape, look at it, and see the perfect building that has grown out of the landscape and is already there in its wholeness. The architect would simply recreate that in the material realm because the imprint of it is there. They would see it in perfect harmony with that particular piece of the landscape and its energies. It would be a place of pure harmony and beauty. Think about sculpture and the uncarved block. He really wants to send this point home. The sculptor would take a block of wood or stone, and through their love, the shape would materialize as they remove what is not needed to reveal the sculpture within. This would not be the domain of just a few masters, but everyone ascending into this higher consciousness. I want to encourage this kind of thinking. It broadens horizons, expanding the sense of boundlessness and of what is possible. We are in a different yuga right now, but to know where we are going gives a great perspective on where we are. It lightens the load in some way to know that it is what we truly are. We are magical beings, and step by step, we are going to remember that. We are going to regain those heightened states, those natural states in which the material and the spiritual come together. And we will perfect the physical plane. We will perfect ourselves and our world. And we will perfect our soul. That is the purpose of being here, for the perfecting of our souls and the perfecting of all that is around us. Thank you so much for joining me for today's live stream. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and or join one of the membership tiers as it is popping off with content. And I will see you on the next video or live stream. Be well, be wild as well.